The reign of King Naungdawgyi would not exactly be smooth sailing, and the troubles would begin already with his ascension to the throne. His father, Alungpaya, had died unexpectedly in 1760 and had decided that all of his sons by his first wife should succeed him on the basis of seniority. In other words, the eldest son would inherit first, followed by his younger brother, and so on. And so, being the eldest, Naungdawgyi was expected to inherit the throne. However, his brother, Sinbyoshin, a talented and popular military commander, decided to seek the army support in an attempt to seize the throne. But the army would prove more difficult to persuade than he had anticipated, and the attempt failed. Naungdawgyi then pardoned his brother, probably to appease the army, which he had somewhat upset by executing two generals that he didn't get along with. With that out of the way, he could be crowned on the 26th of July 1760. But the king couldn't rest on his throne for long, because just a month later one of his commanders did rebel and seized the city of Ava with a force of 12,000 men. It would take over 5 months for Naungdawgyi to retake Ava, and the commander, who had been one of his father's closest men, was shot to death as he fled the city. During the siege, the king received an envoy from the British East India Company. Their mission was to demand reparations for the Burmese sack of Cape Negrais, a demand which Naungdawgyi promptly denied. He did, however, ask the British to resume trade, since he was still in urgent need of arms and ammunition. But that proposal was quickly denied too, as the British were preoccupied with the 7 Years' War and did not deem trade with Burma profitable enough. The second year of his reign would see even more rebellions spring up. It would begin with the revolt of Taungdawgyi in southern Burma, led by none other than Naungdawgyi's uncle. By January 1767, that rebellion had been put down, but while besieging the city, the loyal vassal king of Lan Na, the area surrounding Chiang Mai, had been overthrown. The leader of this rebellion was a man called Chow Kikat, and he decided to invite Taliban, a top general of the former Naungdawgyi kingdom, to use Chiang Mai as his base of resistance. In late 1761, Taliban led an army into southeastern Burma, but failed to rally greater support among the Mon people, and was eventually driven back into the jungle, where he would go on to conduct guerrilla warfare. With Taungdawgyi recaptured in 1762, Naungdawgyi could send his army to retake Lan Na. At the beginning of his third year on the throne, Chiang Mai had been retaken, and the king had marched his army right up to the Chinese border to show off his power. In Lan Na, the king's forces also managed to capture Taliban's family. The general then freely came out of hiding and offered his life in return for his family's. Naungdawgyi was apparently very impressed by this act of selflessness and decided to release them all, taking Taliban into his service. Now, finally, all rebellions had been put down, and order had been restored to the kingdom. But unbeknownst to the king, the poor Anglo-Burmese relations would come back to haunt the kingdom in the form of yet another rebellion. This time, it was the Manipuris who revolted. The king, who had been ousted by Alungpaya in 1758, had gotten military support from the British in exchange for the rights to set up a factory and a fort on their land, as well as reparations for the lost colony of Cape Negrais. But luckily, the British forces were unprepared for the terrain, and they got bogged down on their way to Cachar. A second attempt would be made the following year, but Naungdawgyi would not live to see it. In November of 1763, at the age of just 29, he suddenly died of an illness. During the last few months of his life, the king had finally been free of rebellions and had spent most of his time building 2 pagodas at the Mahananda lake near Shwebo. He had 5 sons and 2 daughters, but according to his father's will, he was succeeded by his younger brother, Sinbyoshin.